I'm going to give you a bit of an idea how that looks like. So throughout my career working on TEs, I've been in contact with OVH several times, with several startups, with various contacts into OVH, some very good. And I can just tell you that it doesn't matter. They're not going to update your bias, and especially not with an up-to-date security patch. And why is that? Because they can't. It's not only OVH's fault. It's basically the mainboard vendors, which are notoriously bad in providing bias updates. If they do it at all, most of the times they just don't do it. And the bare metal hosts, they don't have the capacity to do it themselves. But mainboard, like cloud vendors, they do. Like Google, for example, they have their own bias firmware. Also, an experience here with OpenMetal.ai, IO, is they're really interested and they really want to work together with us. And I sent them, look, I've looked at your bare metal machines and they don't really, they're not up to date. Can you do something about it? And they've contacted the mainboard vendor, and we're waiting since 4 weeks for them to actually update the bias. So it's not going to happen. And let's imagine you're running something in production, and then there's a security leak, and it's a severe one, and you're running on bare metal and some small hosting provider, and they just tell you, no, sorry, we can't do anything about it. You have to shut down the whole operation. It's not really viable. What can we do? There's Coreboot. I've checked here. Coreboot has support for latest generation Xeon processors. You can see here 4 mainboards. I think 1 or 2 are like some test mainboards, and then there's, I think, ByteDance, which have actually implemented this for their in data center mainboard. But there's nothing that you can buy off the shelves and supply Coreboot firmware. But that would be really nice. So if we could only flash our own bias, then with small mainboard vendors, it would be possible. Sorry, with small hosting providers, it would be possible to update firmware. But then there's the next question, and that is, why not just proxy into my side channel slab from the small hosting provider? I think we've already addressed this in previous talks. We want data center execution assurance. There's this nice Glock meeting in Glocks We Trust. Basically, what does it mean? I mean, for Azure and SGX, it works. You can do decap and you can do Microsoft attestation servers, something like that. You can do both at the same time. But with TDX, it's more difficult. The general idea is there's a PPID in the attestation quote, and that's unique per CPU. So we can use that. And then basically have the hosting providers serve a signed list of the PPIDs it owns. There are other solutions, but I think this one is a nice one. There's a side-by-side comparison. This one is interesting. So I guess like GCP firmware updates, it's a big cloud vendor. They have that. OS attestations are in progress. Like OS's open source attestations are in progress, but I've been told they want to get to the point where we can do full decap attestation without any closed source proprietary stuff inside. Data center execution assurance, I don't know. There might be possibilities already, but they also might gonna collaborate. And like the last one is hardware access security. I would consider a small hosting provider, especially depending on where it's having its data center, not that secure. Also, I don't know, running in a museum might not be that secure as running it in the Google Cloud Data Center or Azure. The same thing. But regarding OS attestations, they've provided an open source version of their Paravisor, which is basically running their attestations, which is called OpenVMM. I've been in contact with them, but they're saying they don't have reproducible builds yet, so that's why it's not really green, but more like orange. DCAA we have with Azure. That's cool because we can just use their proprietary attestation. Now look at bare metal hosting. It doesn't really provide any kind of firmware updates because, yeah, I've told you the problem. We do have open source attestations. That's nice. We would like to work on data center execution assurance with small hosting providers, and their hardware access security depends on who we're talking to. Thank you all. I would like to have a call to action. If you want to collaborate on bringing Coreboot to newest Xeon 5 mainboards or implement a DCA reference implementation, then go ahead and contact me.